I have to be honest with you. When I first saw the topic for today's deep dive,
Yeah.
I rolled my eyes.
You rolled your eyes. That's a strong start.
I did. I really did. Because if I open Twitter right now or TikTok or even just, listen to people talking at the table next to me at brunch, I guarantee I will hear the word gaslighting or narcissist within like 5 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
It feels like, when a song gets played on the radio so much that you stop hearing the lyrics?
hmm
It just becomes noise.
It's called semantic satiation.
Is that what it's called? I didn't know there was a term for it.
Yeah. It's when you hear or see a word so many times that it loses its meaning and just becomes a sound. And I think we are absolutely there with gaslighting.
We were so there.
It's become a synonym for lying or being a jerk or even just having a different opinion than me.
Exactly. It's this catch-all term for my ex was mean or my boss gave me a bad review and I didn't like it. So my worry going into this stack of research, and we have a massive stack today. We've got psychology. Today we have these clinical breakdowns from Blue Boat Counseling and some really, really intense Reddit threads.
Yeah, that Reddit thread was something else.
It was. But my worry was that we were just going to be defining a buzzword. I didn't want to spend an hour just correcting internet grammar.
And what did you find?
And I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was completely wrong. Because when you actually strip away the slang, when you look at the clinical reality of what these behavior patterns actually are, it is terrifying.
It is.
It isn't just lying. It's closer to psychological warfare.
It really is. And I'm glad you brought up that buzzword fatigue because that's actually part of the danger.
How so?
Well, when we overuse a word like gaslighting to describe, say, a politician lying about taxes or a boyfriend lying about where he went for dinner, we inadvertently water down the definition. We make it sound harmless. But what we found in the Blue Boat Counseling data, and especially in these survivor accounts that we're going to get into, is that true gaslighting isn't about deception. I mean, deception is the tool, sure, but the goal is something else entirely.
The goal is the dismantling of the other person.
It's the annihilation of the self. It's making someone believe that their sensory processing system, their eyes, their ears, their memory is fundamentally broken.
Wow.
It is about power and control. Pure and simple.
We're going to get into the specific mechanics of how that happens, and we have this one Reddit thread. Honestly, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I read it. We're going to call the user Sarah for this deep dive, just to protect her identity, her story. It's not just a bad breakup, it's a horror movie in slow motion.
Sarah's story is the perfect and really tragic case study because she seems so normal. You read her writing, and she's smart, she's self-aware.
She is, she's articulate.
And yet she got pulled into this machine.
But before we get to Sarah, I want to ground us in the definition. Because Blue Boat Counseling had this phrasing that I thought was so distinct and so clear. They said, gaslighting is a manipulative tactic used to make someone doubt their own perceptions, memories, or feelings.
And notice the list there. Perceptions, memories, and feelings. A liar wants you to believe that they are telling the truth about a specific event. I didn't eat the last cookie.
Right. A simple lie.
A gaslighter wants you to believe that you are incapable of knowing the truth about anything. They want you to think, you didn't see me eat the cookie. In fact, are you sure there even was a cookie? You're seeing things again. Maybe you should get your eyes checked.
That's a heavy distinction. It shifts the problem from the action itself to the observer of the action.
It's the difference between a criminal trying to hide the evidence and a criminal trying to convince the jury that they're hallucinating the evidence.
And where did this term even come from? Because Psychology Today had this fascinating sidebar about the history. I always just assumed it was like a clinical term from the 70s or something, like codependency.
No, not at all. It's actually from the arts, from culture.
Really?
Yeah, it comes from a 1938 play called Gaslight, and there was a very famous movie adaptation in the 1940s with Ingrid Bergman.
I haven't seen it. I feel like I should have. Have you?
I've seen clips, and the premise is it's the perfect metaphor for what we're discussing.
Okay, break it down for us.
So you have this husband, his name is Gregory, and he's secretly trying to find these hidden jewels in the attic of their house. When he goes up there at night to search, he turns on the gas lights in the attic.
Okay.
But because of the way the house is plumbed, turning on the attic lights causes the gas lights in the rest of the house to dim slightly.
Because they're all drawing from the same gas line? Makes sense.
Exactly. So the wife, Paula, she's sitting downstairs in the living room, and she sees the lights dim. She physically sees it happen. It's a real objective event.
Right. She's not imagining it.
No. And she says, Gregory, the lights are dimming. And what do you think he does?
He tells her she's imagining it.
He doesn't just say, no, they aren't. That would be too simple. He acts concerned. He says things like, Paula, darling, you're looking pale. You're seeing things again. You really must be exhausted. You need to rest.
Oh, that's so much worse.
It is. He turns her correct observation of reality into a symptom of her own insanity.
That's chilling.
Yeah.
Because she is right. Objectively.
He is 100% right. But because she trusts him, he's her husband, he loves her, why would he lie? She starts to trust his version of reality more than she trusts her own eyes. And she starts to break. She starts to genuinely question her sanity.
Wow.
That is the core dynamic. The goal, as Psychology Today highlights, is power and control. It's not accidental. The perpetrator is seeking to control the victim emotionally, physically, or financially. They target the victim's very identity, their self-worth. It's a siege on the self.
It's terrifying when you put it that way. It's not just an argument, it's a siege. So, how does something this intense actually begin? Because I assume you don't just walk up to someone on a first date and say, "Hi, I'm going to systematically destroy your sense of reality."
You'd think not. If they did, it would be a lot easier to avoid them, wouldn't it?
Right. So let's look at Sarah, our Reddit user. Because looking at her profile and how she writes, I mean, Sarah is smart. She's articulate. She does not seem like someone who is desperate or naive.
And that's a common misconception we need to clear up right now, right at the top. We think victims of this kind of abuse are weak or stupid or somehow deserving of it.
Right, there's something wrong with them.
But Psychology Today actually points out the exact opposite is often true. Gaslighters frequently target people who are high in empathy and high in conscientiousness.
Wait, really? Why would you target someone smart and empathetic? Wouldn't they be more likely to catch you?
You'd think so, but it's because empathetic people are willing to self-reflect. If you tell a true narcissist, you're acting crazy, they just laugh at you and walk away. They don't care.
They already think they're perfect.
Exactly. But if you tell a highly empathetic, conscientious person, hey, what you just did, it was kind of crazy and it really hurt me, they stop. They pause. They think, oh my God, am I being difficult? I need to look at my behavior. I don't want to hurt this person.
So they're willing to take the blame.
They are willing to entertain the possibility that they are the problem because they want to be a good partner. They have the capacity for self-doubt, and the gaslighter weaponizes that doubt against them.
Wow. Okay. So back to my question. How does it start?
It starts at the opposite of abuse. It almost always starts with what we call the love bombing phase.
Okay. Love bombing.
Yeah.
There's another one of those buzzwords. Let's look at what it actually looks like in practice using Sarah's story. Because the timeline she lays out is... honestly, it made my head spin. It's so fast.
It gets incredibly, incredibly fast.
So, she meets this guy online. They talk for about a month. Pretty standard stuff. Then they meet in person for the first time. How long did it take for him to say, "I love you"?
2 days.
2 days. 2 days of face-to-face interaction.
Think about that. 48 hours.
I mean, just playing devil's advocate here. Couldn't that just be, a whirlwind romance? When you
Yes.
know, you know. My grandparents got engaged after a week. Romeo and Juliet was like a 3-day situation, right?
And that's the tricky part, right? That's what makes it so effective. It mimics romance. It looks like the movies. But there is a crucial difference between intensity and intimacy.
Break that down for us. What's the difference?
Intimacy takes time. Intimacy is built on data. It's, I know how you chew your food. I know what your face looks like when you're about to cry. I know about your childhood trauma. I know how you react when you're tired and hungry.
It's earned knowledge.
It's earned knowledge collected over months, even years. What Sarah experienced was intensity. It's a drug. It feels like intimacy, but it has no foundation. It's a performance of closeness.
Psychology Today had this great phrase for it. I actually highlighted it in the notes. They called it intimacy before it is earned.
That's a perfect way to put it. Intimacy is a privilege. You earn the right to someone's heart, to their secrets. Love bombing is a shortcut. The abuser just floods the target system with validation. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. We are soulmates. I've never felt this way before in my life.
And for Sarah, or for anyone who maybe hasn't felt seen in a while, that feels amazing. It must feel incredible.
It floods the brain with dopamine and oxytocin. It is chemically addictive. It's not just a nice feeling, it's a high.
And look at what else he did. It wasn't just saying, "I love you." What did you ask her before she even left that very first trip?
He asked her to be his girlfriend.
And then, and this is the part that really got me, The second she was back home, he immediately started talking about her moving in with him.
Immediately. This is a classic tactic that we call future faking.
Future faking. Okay, what's that?
It's when you build this incredibly detailed, beautiful fantasy of the future to hook someone in the present. You talk about when we live together, when we get married, our kids are going to have your eyes.
It creates this sense of obligation to a timeline that doesn't even exist yet.
And it makes it so much harder to leave. Because if you have a fight and think about breaking up, you aren't just breaking up with the guy you met 2 days ago. You are breaking up with the wedding you planned in your head, the house with the white picket fence, the kids you named.
You're mourning a future he planted in your head.
Yes. It raises the stakes artificially before any real foundation is built.
And the kicker. The absolute gut punch in Sarah's story. And I literally gasped when I read this detail in her thread.
The twist.
While he was doing all this, while he was saying, I love you, on day 2, while he was planning their future and talking about her moving in, what was he actually doing?
He was still talking to someone else.
He was actively dating. He was on the apps talking to other women.
He was spinning plates. And this is so crucial to understand about the mechanics of manipulation. For the gaslighter, the love bombing wasn't an expression of uncontrollable emotion. He wasn't swept away by passion.
It was a strategy.
It was a procurement strategy. He was securing an asset. He was closing a deal.
Sales pitch.
It is a sales pitch. And once the sale is closed, once Sarah is locked in, once she's emotionally invested and has told all her friends about her amazing new soulmate, the salesman stops smiling.
The mask slips.
The mask slips.
And that shift is the gradual escalation. Psychology today describes this using the frog in boiling water analogy, which I know everyone uses that analogy, but it's so perfect here.
It really is.
But I want to know why the frog stays. Why doesn't Sarah just leave when the mask slips, when the water starts to get warm?
It's a concept called cognitive dissonance.
Okay, unpack that for us.
So your brain has this very powerful, very wonderful belief that you've built up. Let's call it belief A. He is my soulmate. He loves me more than anyone ever has. He is the guy from the first 2 days who looked into my eyes and saw the future. That's a powerful, wonderful belief to hold.
Right. Feels good.
Then you're confronted with a new piece of data. Let's call it reality B. He just lied to my face about eating the last bagel. Or he just made a really cruel joke about my new haircut.
So belief A, he's my soulmate, and reality B, he's being a jerk, they don't match.
They are in direct conflict. And the human brain hates this conflict. It creates a kind of mental static, a stress. So to resolve the tension, the brain has to get rid of one of them.
You have to choose.
You have to choose. So do you throw out belief A, the beautiful soulmate story? That is incredibly painful. That means you were fooled. That means your judgment is bad. That means you're alone again.
So it's easier to throw out reality B.
Exactly. You rewrite reality to protect the belief. You think, he didn't mean to lie. He must have just forgotten. He's just stressed from work. He didn't mean that joke. I must be mistaken.
You do the gaslighter's work for them.
You do it for them. You rationalize the abuse to keep the beautiful fantasy alive.
And once you accept the lie about the bagel,
The heat turns up 1 degree. Next week, it's a lie about who he was texting. Then it's a lie about where the money from your joint account went. The threshold for what you will accept moves, degree by painful degree. You get used to the temperature rising, and you don't even notice you're boiling.
and one of the key ways they keep that temperature rising without the victim jumping out is isolation. This was sign #5 on the Blue Boat counseling list. Isolating you from friends and family.
This is a tactical necessity for the gaslighter. It's not just a side effect, it's a core part of the strategy.
Boy.
Think about it. Humans are social creatures. How do we verify reality? We check with other people.
We triangulate.
We triangulate. If I see a weird-looking bird, I point and say to you, "Hey, do you see that bird?" If you say yes, I know it's real. If you say no, I check my eyes. Friends and family are our reality anchors.
Right. So if Sarah goes to her best friend and says, my boyfriend yelled at me because I breathed too loud while we were watching a movie, the friend is going to say, girl, get out of there. That's insane.
The friend breaks the spell. The friend is the anchor to objective reality. So the gaslighter has to cut the rope. They have to sever that connection.
But they don't usually just say, you can't see your friends anymore. That's too obvious. That's too controlling.
No, that's too blatant. It's much more subtle. Psychology Today mentions that they will actively try to turn others against the victim or poison the victim's view of their own support system.
What does that sound like?
It sounds like, oh, your mom is just jealous of our connection. She never had a love like this. Or your friends are all single and bitter. They don't want you to be happy. They don't understand our love.
It's us against the world, baby.
Exactly. It sounds romantic, but it's actually the walls of a prison going up.
And Sarah mentioned something like this. He would claim that she was the one who was delusional and that she shouldn't tell her friends about their fights.
Yes. Don't tell them about our arguments. They'll think you're crazy.
So now he's not only controlling her reality, he's controlling how she's perceived by the outside world.
He's preemptively discrediting her.
By removing that outside influence, the abuser becomes the sole source of truth. The victim's world shrinks and shrinks until it is just them and the gaslighter in this little bubble. And in that closed system, the gaslighter's word is law. They are God.
That is chilling. It really is. I want to move into the specific signs, the checklist for reality, as we called it in the outline. Because Blue Boat Counseling lays out these 11 signs, and when you combine them with Sarah's specific stories from Reddit, it paints a very, very vivid picture.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't want to just list them, though. I want to talk about how they actually sound and feel in a real conversation.
Good idea. So the first cluster of signs is about denying reality and memory. This is Blue Boat sign, #1 and #2. Denial of reality and constantly questioning your memory.
This is the classic definition we discussed with the movie. This is the core of gaslighting.
I feel like the phrase, "that never happened," is the one everyone knows. But is it always that blunt? Because if I say, we went to dinner at that Italian place last Tuesday, and he just says, no, we didn't, I'm going to know he's lying. I'll have a credit card receipt.
Right, the blunt denial is for amateurs. A sophisticated gaslighter is much more subtle. They use the question.
The question,
Are you sure that's how it happened?
are you sure? Oh, that's good.
It's devastatingly effective. Imagine you're arguing. He said he'd pick you up at 6. He shows up at 7. You're angry, and rightly so. He doesn't say, I never said 6. He says, babe, look at your text. I'm pretty sure I said 7. Are you sure you didn't just want me to come at 6, and now you're misremembering?
And if he's deleted the text, or if you're just tired and you don't want to scroll back through a week of messages,
Even if the text is there, just the confidence of the question makes you pause. It makes you second guess yourself. You check your phone, you check your memory. That moment of hesitation, that is the victory for him. He has introduced the virus of doubt into your system.
and eventually, after that happens enough times, you just stop trusting your memory altogether. You start asking what happened.
Which is exactly what he wants. You outsource your reality testing to the very person who is abusing you. You make him the keeper of your memories.
The Reddit thread had some brutal examples of how this ties into attacking your self-esteem. This links up to Blue Boat sign #4, which is using weaknesses against you, and sign #9, using humor as a weapon.
The humor one is particularly damaging, I think, because it allows the abuser to hide in plain sight. It's abuse disguised as a joke.
Sarah talks about her partner engaging in what she called aggressive affection. First of all, is that a real term or did she make that up?
No, it's not a clinical term. It's her term for it, and it's brilliant. It's an oxymoron designed to confuse the victim. It's like saying loving cruelty. The two words don't go together.
He gave her a nickname. He called her Fatty. Now, for context, Sarah specifically notes in her post that she wasn't overweight at all.
But he called her fatty. He also called her an ugly, stupid idiot or unbearable.
And when she got upset, which of course she did, what was his defense?
You would say he was just joking or that this was his way of connecting. He was just teasing.
This creates what psychologists call a double bind. It's a no-win situation.
Explain that.
If she accepts the name Fatty, her self-esteem is eroded. She starts to feel ugly and worthless. If she fights back and says, don't call me that, she's accused of having no sense of humor. She's too sensitive.
It's heads I win, tails you lose.
Exactly. And framing it as affection, I'm only teasing you because I love you, that frames the abuse as a form of love. It forces the victim to accept cruelty as the price of intimacy.
Psychology Today points out that this constant chipping away at self-esteem is designed to make the victim feel lucky that anyone, even this abuser, would want them.
It makes them feel small. And when you feel small and worthless, you don't fight back. You don't leave. You mentioned earlier about blame shifting. That's Blue Boat sign, #3. This is the classic, look what you made me do tactic.
Yes. If you hadn't done X, I wouldn't have reacted that way. It completely absolves the abuser of any and all responsibility for their own actions.
Sarah's example for this one was infuriating to read. She caught her partner cheating.
Oh!
Like full on caught him. She saw his phone, saw him DMing other girls, talking about sex, giving out his address. The evidence was undeniable.
Caught red-handed. There was no wiggling out of it.
You would think. But when she confronted him, he didn't apologize. He blamed the distance in their relationship.
He blamed the situation. He said, well, if you lived closer, I wouldn't be so lonely and I wouldn't have to do this.
Just think about the audacity of that. He is telling her that his betrayal is actually her fault for not being geographically present enough for him.
It's a textbook pivot, a masterclass in deflection. Instead of the conversation being about his betrayal, which it should be, it becomes a conversation about his unmet needs and her failure to meet them.
He puts the victim on the defensive.
Instantly. Suddenly, Sarah is apologizing for living far away and trying to figure out how to move faster instead of him being on his knees apologizing for cheating.
And he also used projection, didn't he? Before she even found the text, he was accusing her of being untrustworthy.
Yes, that is classic projection. Gaslighters and narcissists often accuse their victims of the very things they're doing. If they're cheating, they accuse you of cheating. If they're lying, they accuse you of being a liar.
Why do they do that?
2 reasons. First, it puts you on trial, so you're too busy defending yourself to have time to investigate them. And second, it's a way for them to discharge their own shame and guilt onto you.
And then there's the invalidation of emotions. This is Blue Boat sign #7, dismissing your feelings.
This is where you hear those killer phrases like, you're overreacting, or calm down, or you're being too sensitive.
Sarah mentioned that whenever she would bring up a concern, he would just shut her down. He'd tell her to shut up, or take a nap, or stop nagging. Just total dismissal.
And the kicker, the justification he used.
When she asked him why he was being so disrespectful, he said, equality, baby.
Equality baby. That is a masterclass in twisting a positive concept for a malicious purpose.
Right. He's using a progressive buzzword, equality, to justify being verbally abusive.
It's so sophisticated in a really twisted way. He's implying I can speak to you however I want because we're equals. Completely ignoring the fact that respect is the baseline of any healthy relationship, equal or otherwise.
He's co-opting a positive value to defend a negative behavior.
And it confuses the victim because they believe in equality, so they feel like they don't have a right to get upset. They feel like they have to accept the behavior or they're being a bad feminist or something. It's insane.
And all of this leads to what Blue Boat calls sign #8, making you feel crazy.
The crazy factor.
It's the cumulative effect.
Yeah.
If your memory is constantly denied and your feelings are always invalidated and your reality is questioned day in and day out and your friends are cut off, you eventually start to feel like you are genuinely losing your mind.
And often the gaslighter will be the first one to tell you that you're going crazy, you need help, you sound delusional.
It's the ultimate gaslight, convincing the victim that the abuse they're experiencing is actually a symptom of their own mental illness.
And this brings us to a really important distinction we need to make, because we've been using the words gaslighter and narcissist a little bit interchangeably, but the sources, specifically Psychology Today and some of the analysis in the Reddit thread, make a point to separate them.
Yeah, let's get into section 3 of our outline, gaslighting versus narcissism, because Psychology Today says they are not the same thing.
Right, and this is a key clarification. Psychology Today clarifies that gaslighting is a verb, it is a behavior, it is something you do. And manipulation on a small scale is common. Children do it to get candy, marketers do it to sell you shoes. But gaslighting, the kind we're talking about, is a sustained pattern of abusive behavior with the specific intent to control, not just to influence. It is rare, but it is severe.
And narcissism, how is that different?
Narcissism, specifically narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is a personality structure. It's an ingrained way of being. It's about self-promotion, a pervasive sense of superiority, and a profound lack of empathy. Now, a clinical narcissist can and often does use gaslighting as one of their primary tools.
But they're distinct concepts.
They are. You can be a gaslighter without having full-blown NPD, and I suppose you could be a narcissist who uses other tactics, although there is a very, very significant overlap.
The Reddit thread had a really fascinating take on the grandiosity of the narcissist. We usually think of narcissists as these arrogant jerks who just love themselves way too much.
Right, that's the stereotype.
But the Reddit user pointed out that this grandiose sense of self is often just a coping mechanism for an extremely fragile, low self-esteem.
That is a very insightful observation from that user. In clinical terms, we call it the false self versus the true self.
Okay, explain that.
The true self of a person with NPD is often a very small, wounded inner child. It's filled with shame. They feel worthless. They feel profoundly inadequate. And that feeling is so unbearable to them.
That they have to build something to cover it up.
Exactly. They construct a false self, this godlike figure who is perfect, brilliant, all-powerful, and adored by everyone. This false self is a shield to protect them from the shame of their true self.
The example Sarah gave was just perfect for this. Her ex-partner claimed to be the best at everything. He was the best at his job, the best at video games, the best at getting girls. Total grandiosity.
Oh, what was the reality?
The reality was he had crippling social anxiety. He couldn't even walk into a store by himself to order food.
The contradiction is the key. He was too terrified to order a burger, but in his mind, he was the master of the universe.
How does that work in someone's head? How do you hold both of those realities at once?
It's extreme compartmentalization. The grandiosity is the armor that protects them from the shame of the insecurity. If they were to admit, I am scared to order food, they would feel so worthless they might psychologically disintegrate. So they construct this alternate reality where they are actually superior to everyone else, and the ordering food thing is just, it's irrelevant, or it's someone else's fault, or it's beneath them.
So what happens if you point out the contradiction? If Sarah says, hey, you say you're the most confident guy in the world, but why can't you order the food?
Then you are attacking the shield. You are threatening to kill the false self. And they will defend it with their lives. They will rage, they will lash out, and they will gaslight you to protect that delusion. They will tell you you're lying, or you don't understand them, or you're just jealous of their greatness. Anything to avoid facing that inner shame.
So in the end, debating whether someone is a true clinical narcissist or just a massive jerk, does it really matter for the person being abused?
You know, there was a comment on that Reddit thread that I think sums this up perfectly. I wrote it down. A user named altruistictown288 said, "It does not matter really in the end if they are a narc or someone with narc traits. Do you feel safe with them? NO, so they are bad people for your nervous system."
Do you feel safe? That is the only metric that matters.
That's it. We can get so hung up on the diagnosis. Is
Yeah.
he a sociopath? Is he a narcissist? Does he have borderline traits? Is it avoidant attachment? We become these amateur psychologists, but the body knows. Your body keeps the score. If you don't feel safe, if your nervous system is constantly in a state of fight or flight around this person, that is the answer. The label is irrelevant.
Speaking of safety, I want to touch on a specific type of gaslighting the Psychology Today brought up, which happens completely outside of romantic relationships. Medical gaslighting.
Yes, this is a very, very important sidebar in their article. Medical gaslighting is when medical providers ignore, dismiss, or downplay a patient's legitimate health concerns.
So you go to the doctor and say, I have this terrible pain, and they say, it's all in your head, or you just need to lose some weight, or it's just anxiety.
Exactly. Now, Psychology Today makes a very important and nuanced point here. Unlike the abusive partner, who is often doing it intentionally for control, a doctor might not be doing it maliciously.
So it's unintentional.
It's often unintentional. It might be implicit bias, especially against women or people of color. It might be that they're rushing. It might be a lack of knowledge about a specific condition. They aren't necessarily trying to mislead the patient for their own gain.
But the effect on the victim, on the patient, is the same.
Precisely. The patient starts to doubt their own bodily experience. They stop trusting their own signals. They think maybe the pain isn't that bad. Maybe I am just making it up. They might stop seeking help even when something is seriously wrong. It reinforces that core feeling of, I can't trust what I feel.
It's wild how this mechanism, this process of making someone doubt their own reality, works in so many different contexts, from a relationship to a doctor's office.
It taps into a fundamental human need. The need to trust our own senses, our own perception of the world. When that is broken, we are completely adrift.
Let's go back to the relationship dynamic, specifically the cycle of it all. Because Blue Boat sign #10 is frequent apologies followed by repeat offenses. The apology, that means nothing.
This is the core of the cycle of abuse. The apology is not a sign of remorse. It is a tool to reset the clock and end the conversation.
Sarah had this great phrase for it. She called it the just didn't wanna attitude. Her partner would make promises, big or small, and then just not do them. And when she asked why, he'd just shrug and say, just didn't wanna.
And if he did apologize, it was hostile, right?
Yes, it was a hostile apology. He'd say the phrase, I already apologized, move on.
That exact phrase, I already apologized.
Just think about the tone of that. It's so dismissive. A real apology is, I see that my actions hurt you, I am sorry for that pain, and here is how I will change my behavior to ensure it doesn't happen again.
Right. It has 3 parts: acknowledgement, remorse, and a plan for change.
A gaslighter's apology is, I said the magic word that's supposed to make you shut up, so why are you still talking about this?
It makes the victim feel guilty for not forgiving fast enough, even though nothing has actually been resolved. The behavior hasn't changed.
And if the victim doesn't drop it, what happens? The gaslighter punishes them.
Yeah.
Sarah mentioned the silent treatment.
Ah, yes. Sign #6 on her list was punishing behavior, ignoring texts, refusing to talk for hours or days.
Silence is so loud in a relationship.
It is a weapon. It communicates. You do not exist to me unless you comply with my reality. It triggers a primal abandonment fear in the victim. They'll do anything to make the silence stop. They will apologize just to get a response, so the victim ends up apologizing for being hurt by the original offense.
That is the twisted victory of the gaslighter. That's the end game.
It is absolute control.
This leads perfectly into why it is so incredibly hard to leave these situations. This is section 5 of our deep dive. Because from the outside, you look at this list, the name calling, the lying, the cheating, the silent treatment, and you think, just leave. What are you doing?
But inside that bubble, the reality is completely distorted. Psychology Today talks about the deep erosion of trust. And it's not just trust in the partner that gets destroyed, it's trust in people generally. Gaslighting violates the fundamental and mostly healthy view that people are generally good and tell the truth.
And it erodes trust in oneself. That's the biggest one. If you've been conditioned to believe that you are crazy, too sensitive, and unbearable, like he says, you don't believe you can survive on your own.
You feel fundamentally worthless. You think, no one else would ever want me. I'm lucky he even puts up with me. He has become your only source of validation, even as he destroys you.
And then there's the idea of weaponized empathy. This was such a powerful point from the Reddit thread. The abuser knows that the victim is a kind, empathetic person.
And they exploit that empathy. They play the victim themselves. My ex was so crazy. My parents were so mean to me. I'm just so stressed out at work, and that's why I'm acting this way.
And so Sarah, or any empathetic person, thinks, oh, he's just wounded. I can save him. I can be the one who finally understands him and heals him.
It triggers what's sometimes called the savior complex. The gaslighter gives you a job. Fix me. And as long as you are working on that job, you aren't looking at how they're actually treating you right now. You are too busy trying to be the good partner to realize you are with a bad one.
And if you do get fed up, if you do try to leave, here comes the vacuum cleaner. The hoovering.
Named after the vacuum brand, yes. It's the tactic of sucking the victim right back in when they try to escape.
This is where the love bombing comes back, right? It's the beginning of the cycle all over again.
Yes. The second they sense you're pulling away for real, the monster disappears. And suddenly, the abuser is the perfect, charming person they were in the first 2 days. They are sweet, they are attentive, they cry, they promise to change. I'll go to therapy. I finally realize what I lost. You're the only love of my life.
It's so confusing for the victim because they want to believe that this version of the person is the real one and the abusive one was the aberration.
But Psychology Today warns, once the victim agrees to stay, the behavior almost always returns to normal, often even worse than before. The mask drops again. It's a cycle. It's what's known as intermittent reinforcement.
Like a slot machine.
Exactly like a slot machine in Vegas. If you pulled the lever and lost every single time, you'd walk away. But if you win just once in a while, you get a little payout of love and affection, you'll keep pulling that lever, losing all your money. The occasional nice days keep you hooked to the months of misery.
Until the discard. This was the final brutal stage described in Sarah's Reddit thread. The ultimate discard.
This is the brutal end of the road. If the gaslighter finds a new, fresh source of supply, someone new to validate them, a new audience for their stories, they can move on instantly. Sarah noted her ex moved on with a new girlfriend within a week.
A week. After all that, I love you, you're my soulmate, and I'll change drama, after the intense jealousy and control, a week.
And appearing completely unaffected. Happy, even. It's devastating for the victim because they're left picking up the pieces of their shattered reality, their shattered self-worth, while the abuser is off on the horizon love bombing the next target.
It really confirms that the relationship was never about connection or love for the abuser. It was about consumption.
Consumption, that's the perfect word. Consumption of validation, of control, of energy. Once the juice is squeezed out of the orange, they toss the rind aside and grab a new piece of fruit.
Wow. Okay, that is heavy. But it's the reality for so many people. So how do we wrap this up? How do we leave people with something other than total despair after hearing all this?
Well, the outro of our outline focuses on the path forward. And the very first step is just recognizing the impact. It's about validating your own feelings.
This is Blue Boat Sign, #11, feeling unstable.
If you are constantly questioning yourself, if you feel like you are always walking on eggshells, if you are exhausted from trying to explain your own reality to your partner, that is the red flag. You don't need a PhD in psychology or a clinical diagnosis of NPD to know that that feeling isn't right.
And as we've said, this isn't just about romantic relationships, it happens with family, in the workplace.
Absolutely. A boss can gaslight you about your performance. A parent can gaslight you about your childhood memories. The dynamic of power and control is the same.
So what's the fix? How do you get out? Blue Boat counseling is pretty clear on this point. Doing everything we can isn't always enough.
Meaning, you can't love the gaslighter into being a better person. You could explain yourself clearly enough to make them finally understand and stop gaslighting. You can't fix them. Professional help is often needed. Therapy is crucial to rebuild that shattered sense of self.
You need an external reality anchor.
Exactly. A good therapist acts as an external compass until yours is fixed. They validate your reality. They give you the words, no, that was not okay. Yes, that was a form of abuse. That validation is life-changing.
And Psychology Today has a really, really validating note here that I loved. Survivors of this kind of abuse are often very strong, empathetic people. The abuse targeted their best qualities, their empathy, their capacity for trust, their openness, not their weaknesses.
That is such an important reframe. You weren't gaslighted because you were stupid or weak. You were targeted because you had a light inside you that the abuser wanted to control or extinguish. Healing is about reclaiming those qualities for yourself. You didn't lose them.
I want to leave everyone with one final kind of provocative thought that Psychology Today touched on. We've talked a lot about the evil intent of the gaslighter, but they mentioned the concept of unintentional gaslighting.
Right. Can someone be a gaslighter just because they learn the behavior from their parents? Maybe they grew up in a house watching their dad gaslight their mom, and they think that's just how you win an argument. That's how relationships work.
So they might not even realize what they're doing is abuse. But the question is, does the lack of evil intent make the damage any less real?
It's a great question. If a drunk driver hits you with their car, they didn't intend to hurt you, but you're still in the hospital. The intent might mitigate our moral judgment of the person, but it doesn't mitigate the impact on the victim.
The damage is the same.
The damage is the same. Whether they know they're doing it or not, if a person in your life is systematically dismantling your reality, you have to protect yourself.
That's the takeaway. Intent doesn't equal safety. You have to look at the result, not the intention. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm.
Exactly. Protect your light.
This has been a heavy one, but a really important one. We hope this deep dive helps you spot the signs, trust your gut, and maybe understand that buzzword a little bit better and what it truly means.
Trust your reality.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Take care.